Hey everyone, and welcome back to Infrascale's Tech Thursdays. Today should be an exciting one. We're talking about a new offering from Infrascale, so that should be definitely interesting. And it's been a little bit since we've had one, so we'll have some other updates that we want to go over before we jump into that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda. We've got two special guests today. We've got Aaron Jordan, who happens to be one of our pre-sales engineers, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experiences. And we've got Tristan, who's going to jump on. He's the manager of implementation services, and we're going to talk about the new offering that they have. So we're going to cover Infrascale's guided disaster recovery, how to sell it, what it is, what the deliverables are, and then we're also going to cover a couple extra things like product updates. So if we take a look here at product updates, we can see that, well, both of our products, our major products out there, have had releases done. So whether it's direct to cloud or it's our DRaaS offering, they both had updates. Now you might wonder, all right, well, what's in that update? How do I find out more about it? Well, it's really easy to do that. We go ahead and we come over here and we go to docs.infrascale.com. And what that's going to allow us to do is to see all of the Infrascale products that are out there, even our dashboard, and go in and take a look at our release notes. So here we can easily see everything that's going on.
Hey,
Take a look.
Chris.
Yes.
Hey. Um, I'm not seeing anything presented. I just wanted to. I don't think
Oh,
I'm the only one. It,
let
it's.
me
It could
double
possibly be
check.
user error, just me. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, it might be me. Aha, it should be better now.
Okay, and there you are in the lower right-hand
Excellent.
corner. Perfect. And then
Excellent.
also, I don't know if you wanted to record, but I thought I'd remind you of that as well.
That is definitely already happening.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going back on mute.
That part I
Thanks.
have. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the notes that we have in here for our release notes. So we can see that 8.3 just came out on September 28th. We can see the different versions that we've had, all the things that are in there. Again, we never force push a release, but it is good to come out here when you get notified that there is one, that there's something out there that you should be taking a look at. And if it's appropriate for you, might be a good time to update. Now, another thing that has changed, that's a pretty major thing, is around our support. So we've drastically updated our support website. So if you want to go take a look at that, definitely like you to go out there. So it's infrascale.com/support. It's probably been one of our major complaints that we've had from people coming to us from some of our competitors, is all around support and making sure that, this is your disaster recovery platform. We want to make sure that we have the best support possible. So our support starts for the full journey of your product, right? We have everything from implementation assistance, which we have Tristan on today, to the onboarding process, to continuous monitoring of services, to providing proactive care and outreach. So not only are we going to reach out when we sell it, but we're going to reach out after that and make sure everything's up and working as we would expect. And then we have the on-demand support 24/7 available to you guys all the time. Now, this leads kind of into our new offering is we have the guided disaster recovery testing. And that's something we'll be talking about a lot today. And that's the ability to actually go out there and test and make sure that your DR is working, bring it up, get best practices, all that kind of information. Now, all that information can be found on the support website. If you scroll down, that's where you can find those new services that we're offering. Now, the first step, let's go ahead and talk with one of our guys here. We'll talk with Aaron about what exactly, disaster recovery means to your customers. How expensive is it to not have a plan? So we'll go ahead and bring Aaron up. You there, Aaron?
Hey guys, how you doing? Hi, so real quick introduction here. My name is Aaron Jordan. I'm a sales engineer at Infrascale. I'm also a solutions architect. But I wanted to mention too, I'm not just a standard sales engineer. Actually, I left Infrascale for a year and a half and ran product management for one of the United States' largest MSPs. And in that time, I spent a lot of time really just reforging their sales offerings, changing the price model, updating their SKUs for the modern times, and really building packages and bundles that would help them to more efficiently accommodate their needs, their growing needs, but also really increase the margins across the board. Go ahead, next slide. All right, so this right here on initial look, the cost of goods and offerings, it could definitely be applied to your average day-to-day MSP conversation when adding backup to a solution. But I really want to focus on the failover as a whole, right? And really what I want to focus on these slides are factors that people often forget about, right? So when it comes to pricing Infrascale, specifically the failover, they'll look at the cost of the solution and they'll think, oh, well, how much is a terabyte of DRAS? And how can I pass that along? And are there extra fees? But they might forget like things like, well, it's not just those initial fees that you have to worry about, right? There are a lot of additional things that you need to be concerned about when we're talking about the cost of a solution. And that would include things like support, which is the next thing I want to cover, and even dealing with implementation and failover events. So when it comes to cost of support and looking at a failover event, you want to make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot in the future. And what I mean by that is it's easy to say, all right, onboarding a client is going to cost me X dollars per month for a terabyte of Infrascale and I'm going to be done. But what happens when that client needs to start being supported? What happens when you actually do have a failover event and you have to start putting more support time and effort into those clients, and you start to quickly outpace your margins because you're spending more money just keeping the support active. And so you want to actually consider the man hours to support this solution and even level of technical expertise, right? You're not going to put your level 1 support on a failover event. You're going to put your level 2 or level 3 if you have those additional levels on these support events. The next thing to mention is implementation of cost. Right. So usually it's forgotten about because Infrascale will usually handle implementation, but you need to make sure that you have somebody that is available working with our team members when it's implemented so that in the event of a failover, they know exactly how everything works. You have to have that person build for that time period that they're not spent used working on other cases or tickets or helping clients out. And then there comes the failover event itself. And this is really important because this is where you really start to eat your time. All too often, I find MSPs don't anticipate hours of resolution within their contracts with their clients, right? They'll just sell them they'll look at the cost of DRAS and they'll break it over an ROI period, like we want to recover our investment in 8 months. And then from there, we're just sailing, right? But what happens if the client is needy? Or if they do have a failure event and you didn't spend the time to properly implement or to train, right? And so this is where you start to balloon your costs. But there's also the other question then that becomes, well, can I use failover events as an added way to make revenue? And speaking from experience, yes, and it's incredibly lucrative, especially if you have all of the other ducks in a row. What I mean by that is if I've got my support levels trained out and I've got my MSP plan set up to where it includes not just my backup per month fee, but also an expected amount of support cost per month per user, with an understanding that that's in my contract, right, with you and your client, that they get X amount of hours, where, by the way, and this is important, that do not roll over. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in support debt, right? You'll owe that to your client, and they'll get really angry if you take that away at the end of a year or something. So you let them know it doesn't roll over, right? So this keeps your cost normal so that when you do come to a failover event and the client says, can you help me with this, right, as a test before something bad happens, which you should be offering, you can then say, sure, I can calculate based off of what my manpower is with a little bit of margin and give you an idea of what that service would add. And that gives you an additional offering. Next slide, please. Now, what if I told you you can cut out most of those issues and have Infrascale do it for you? And that really is what we're going to spend a lot more time talking about today as Tristan moves forward with his part, where we can discuss how Infrascale can take a simple, or take this complicated solution where they actually do a failover test and provide a report at the end, and all you have to do is pay a simple, inexpensive fee that gives you plenty of room for margins. Now, I can't give you names, but I'm going to give you some anecdotal evidence of when I actually did this at my previous MSP that I work for. So a giant government contractor has a requirement by law every year to do a failover test. And that failover test would consist of about 40 or 50 servers. So it's a pretty heavy job. So what we can do is we can pre-configure orchestration and the LAN segmentation and all the networking for your DR failover event and get all that set up, and then we can failover for you. So instead of having to put people behind that, Infrascale was able to do that. So what I did was I billed the client per hour of how long I thought it would take. And my time was not cheap. And I billed them at a minimum of 20 hours of actual labor. And in most cases, it would go beyond that. To be honest with you, I would spend a couple hours a week actually preparing things. A lot of that was just monitoring and ensuring things were moving forward. But at the end, I maybe put in an actual total of like 4 or 5 hours of real honest to goodness work if you added it up, but we're able to charge, due to the monitoring aspect of it, to get it prepared and working with Infrascale, about a 30 to 40 hour bill, right? And it only cost us a couple $100 with Infrascale, but I was able to turn that around on the client and charge thousands of dollars. In fact, I think one of my largest failover tests in that instance with a government contractor, it was almost $30,000 that they were charged for that, for just time. And it really was just monitoring things. And because Infrascale is able to help you configure this and now do this for you, you just have to pay the service fee for it to be done. And then you can bill them accordingly and collect something that gives you an incredible amount of margin. I want to go ahead and just say I want to leave some time for questions that you can actually put into the chat, but I also wanted to give Tristan some time to actually talk about this. And I appreciate you listening to my experiences and where I come from with this.
So next up to bat, we've got Tristan. He's the manager of our implementation services. So we'll give Tristan a little chance here to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Hey, guys. So my name is Tristan Heberer. I'm the manager of the implementation services here at Infrascale. I've been here for just about 5 years now. My previous experience in the IT world really started, 20, 25 years ago. I've done everything from boots on the ground help desk tech to network administration to managing IT departments for some of our largest accounts in Southern California. And that's pretty much my history. So you can go to the next slide there, Chris. So as Aaron and Chris both said, today we wanted to talk about one of our new professional services offerings here at Infrascale. We have a new professional services team. These are paid for offerings. We only have a couple. They're mainly a la carte options right now, but we're continuing to add more as time goes on. This one's a super important one. It's a really cool one. It's our Infrascale guided disaster recovery testing. At a high level, you can see by the slide, the goal is to gain confidence that your backups are tested and ready when you need them. Again, it's going through all the testing, start to finish, OS issues, things like that. We will be able to assist you with that. While our normal support sometimes doesn't cover that. When machines boot up, if there are issues within operating systems and so on, it's typically handled by the MSP or the provider to resolve those issues. But in this instance, we're here to help. And again, super high level here, if you want to take a look at the quick slide. But again, it's the gaining confidence that your backups are tested. And when that disaster strikes, it's just a matter of spinning them up and doing what you've done plenty of times when you've tested with us. You're good to go for the next slide there, Chris.
Let me throw a little bit in here just from my experience. So I was a flight of sight guy. So like Tristan, I've been in this for over 20 years. I've had just about every role from tech support, flight of sight, business critical engineer. And that was my specialty, was disaster recovery testing. And they would fly me up to New York to cover one of the big banks up there, and they would have an outage, and we'd shut all the servers down and bring everything up in DR. And what's great about the way that we do our DR testing is we can do it offline, so that it's a real DR test, but it doesn't affect your production environment. So you don't have to bring things down. You don't have to provide travel and lodging for all the people who are doing it. And by far, the most impressive thing I've seen is the price. I mean, we were like $2,500 a day per engineer we sent, plus expenses, where our numbers are significantly lower than that. So what exactly, you know, are the features and benefits? I'll let Tristan cover that.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and all good points. So using our professional services team here at Infrascale, we'll provide the guidance on all aspects of failing over to the cloud. Again, this goes above and beyond what we normally do in our implementation offering, where we test a single machine and maybe do some database tests, but we only focus on one machine. So this takes it to the next level and does the entire site. So when using the service, you'll have direct one-on-one time, just like we do with the implementations, with a professional services team member. We'll assist with VPN connectivity, building orchestration in the cloud, troubleshooting OS or database-related issues if needed, and then network connectivity. And that goes above and beyond any VPN as well. So local networks, subnetting if we have to, how to get different subnets from maybe your production network to communicate with the DR LAN side via public IP if needed, one-to-one NATs, whatever it may be. We have the knowledge to really help out there and guide a little bit and do that setup for you. But the cool thing is too, when testing is complete, we're going to provide you this customized report. It's going to be a report outlining all the systems we tested. If there were any issues, we'll have issue tracking on the sheet. We'll have boot verification screenshots and path forward analysis. So what all that means is once we're done, we pretty this up, we put it and wrap it up, put a bow on it and give it to you. And Chris has an example here. It's very detailed if you want to go through it real quick, Chris, but again, we give this to you after the fact, so you can use this for other sites you may have, just any accountability or any type of compliance reasonings you need to show that you did test this and then provide that to your customer. But again, it's super detailed, and we can even expand on it, add custom things if needed. You'll see we have all of our networking and public IPs listed here and so on. So again, it's good for you to take this and then keep it. It proves you tested it. You can use it in the future for continuous testing as well. Cool, Chris, you're good to go to the next slide there. So really what we want to focus on here is how it works. And at a high level, we'll kind of go through each one of these steps, but again, this is a paid for offering. You can work with your sales team to determine that cost, but you do need to purchase the Infrascale guided disaster recovery testing. Next, you'll set an appointment with someone from our professional services team. We'll set it up one-on-one. It will be virtual. It's not on site. It's done via screen sharing, just like we're doing today, and how our implementations work. The next step is to execute your DR plan if you have one, right? If you don't have one, we'll help you build it out. But if you do have one, we'll execute it. We'll observe and evaluate what's happening, track issues, and so on that report that Chris just had up. Next step is just sharing, real-time DR testing execution. So as we're doing this test, we're going to be sitting, watching, and basically monitoring everything for you. We'll keep you in the loop of what's happening. If there are issues, we'll be tracking those. But it's really, we can pivot and change things on the fly if something's not working, right? So this goes through, like, again, your OSs may not be booting, maybe blue screening. Maybe you have a domain controller that's blue screening. We can help you fix all that. The next step is just preparing and delivering the disaster recovery plan report. And again, that's what Chris just showed, but we'll have it filled out. We'll fill it out for you and then send it to you. Last step is just amending your current DR playbook with the report we provide, and then storing that. Again, you can either prove it to your customer if you have some compliance reasoning to show a higher organization that you did test this, you can do that as well.
Now, one of the things that I actually experienced was when I was the DR specialist for a bunch of hospitals is, well, first they hired me and told me, hey, you're the new guy. We're going to fly you out so you can go interact with them and watch the team do their DR test at IBM's facility. And I'm like, all right, cool, that's awesome. I'm like, I just don't want to be the only guy there. And they're like, no, no, that would never happen. So once I flew out there, they're like, all right, the rest of the Intel team's not coming. And that was exciting. And then we came in and we started doing all the testing, and we slowly started moving kind of the goalpost in as well. If we had more time, we think that would have worked, and if we had this, that would have probably worked. And this helps you to avoid that again, because we can do this testing without having to bring down the production networks. So it's a really great way to prove and test that your DR plan works without having to cause an outage. Now we'll go ahead and
Yep.
jump over and see if there's any questions out there that are floating around about what's going on. I'll bring up the different ways we have questions coming in here. So as of right now, I don't see any questions in the queue. I definitely think that one of the key parts or the takeaways that we would have as far as from this service is that document that shows you what was tested, how it was tested, what the results were, so you can turn that in kind of as a, uh, we'll say a report card to your customers as to what had happened. I know that depending on the industries, there's different requirements on how frequent to do the testing. A lot of the industries have quarterly or semi-quarterly or yearly. So it's definitely one of those things a lot of people need.
Real quick, Hans Seidel asks, is the offering per client or per partner? Hans, it's per event. So the way it works is if you have a client that wants to do a failover test every quarter, then every time they engage us with that service or that SKU, they pay the price at that time. So it's every time they want it to be done and they want an event taken care of. Nate Blair asks, will pricing be hourly or a lump sum payment for this service? I'll let you guys answer that.
Yeah, so it is hourly. It's a 2-hour minimum per site that we test, and then if we go over that 2 hours, that will be billed as well.
Excellent. So it looks like the questions have calmed down, but as always, you can just reply back to me, Chris Bayne, and I will answer any of those questions or find the right person to answer any questions that we have after this. Everything's going to be posted up to not only our YouTube, but our Facebook. It looks like we have something else coming in here.
Yeah, Hans mentioned something depending on customer environment. Yes, we will give so again, yeah, minimum 2 hours. And during kind of like this discovery phase on the first call, if we feel it's going to go over that, we will definitely do our best to give you an estimate of hours.
Excellent. I guess as long as everything goes swimmingly, then that would be the minimum amount of hours. And if we
Yeah,
run into issues, that can add a little bit of extra time.
of course. And then, of course, depending on site size, right? I mean, you could have, if your site has 20, 30 machines, right? That could all take a little bit longer, only because we want to be sure and boot all those machines up, establish applications and databases and all that kind of fun stuff to make it work. To your point, not like you mentioned earlier, if you stop too soon and you say, oh, well, we could have done this if we had more time and all that. No, we will spend the time to make sure it gets done and completed successfully.
And it's definitely better to have that, find those weird oddities that take a little bit of time to figure out and fix during a test that's not an actual outage, right? You don't want to do that when your production environment's down and be like, oh, we need to figure these things out. And that's really the point of this, is to make sure that, if you have to click that big red button and fail over and get up and running, that you have faith that that's going to come up, everything's going to work the way it should, and they're going to be back up and running. All right, guys. Well, it looks like the amount of questions has calmed down a little bit here, so we'll go ahead and end up this Tech Thursday. We will have another one soon. Oh, we have another one.
Yeah, so Nate, you asked, alongside of booting the environment in the cloud, will testing be done via the TrueSoft VPN agent so outside machines can access the environment? For sure. We don't need, and we don't need to necessarily do the VPN client either. If you have your standard IPsec site-to-site VPN, we can test connectivity over that as well. So yeah, it will be complete in terms of having end users attach and start using those machines in the cloud, whether it's through a one-to-one NAT over public IP, a client-based VPN, again, or your standard IPsec site-to-site VPN.
Stay.
All right, apparently someone is interacting with their pet. All right, great job. Thanks for being on today, Tristan and Aaron. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. And again, if you guys have any more questions, reach out to your reps, reach out to one of your pre-sales engineers or your implementation specialist, and go ahead and ask those questions, and we'll get back to you as quick as possible. Look forward to talking to you guys on the next Tech Thursday.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Great job.